Okay, Morning. Happy Saturday. We've had a few little glitches this morning. I'll take full responsibility. But welcome. This is Property Avenue WA. Our focus is on things all property in Western Australia, and we're bucking the trend here in WA, so it's a very interesting time. But I'm Tony Viner, commonly known as TV. This is Oscar D'Souza, commonly known as OD, and we're here every week to chat about a range of things with regard to property. We encourage you, our live chat line, to ask questions. You may have some questions about property. Our guest this week, a lady guest we have, which I'm excited about. Our first lady guest is Carly Browne from Ray White in Geraldton. So looking forward to having a chat to Karls and the experiences she's having as a property manager, because as we know, OD, some of the stats that you've had, Geraldton last week, I think was less than 80 properties in total available for rent in Geraldton alone. So that's just unheard of. So it's no doubt she will have her challenges. There may be some tips that we'll have a chat about. If you're looking to rent a property, there may be some tips that we can give you, or some suggestions or some thoughts if you're a landlord. And it would be also interesting to get Karl's perspective as a property manager. What are the challenges that she's going through in her profession with something of this nature? So, and it's very interesting too, OD, that I've spoken to a few business owners during the week, and some of the experiences they're having here in WA. Busy, yes. Staffing, no. So, what impact that's all having with our overall world, mate? A great week. How was your week? And welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to you. Good morning to the viewers that are watching the live broadcast, and good morning to the people that are going to be watching it not live, so they're going to be watching it after the show. A very big week, as always, mate. That's just the theme. Another very big week in WA real estate, and then we always touch on what's going on around the country as well, particularly Victoria and now New South Wales. So another big week in WA real estate. Some sobering news, I guess, or some things that always make you put life back in perspective. And we touched on it before the show. You know, there's been a couple of lives lost that we've known about just in the last week, really. There's been some sporting lives. There's been some real estate people's lives around WA as well, that people that are no longer with us, and overall great people. It's just a tragedy. I don't know, you might want to touch on those now, mate, but a big week in WA real estate.
Yeah, mate, and now that you've introduced that, perhaps I won't until I introduce Karls, but because she's got a connection there as well. But certainly, yeah, you're spot on with regard to that. And like Dean Jones, that was just, I don't know about you, but when I was he's not a lot younger than me, but certainly he was one of my blokes that you turn the TV on to watch cricket back in the day. And when they started wearing those green and gold uniforms and they suddenly had coloured cricket, I remember my dear old dad just shook his head when they came out and started playing cricket in green and gold colours. But I've actually was not until my brother reminded me, Dad actually played golf with Dean Jones up here in Geraldton in the Spalding Park Open, yeah. And so funnily enough, he said, remember? And I went, I do remember now that you make mention of that. So, yeah, dear old Dad, with his involvement in sport and his sports commentary, had the pleasure of Dino being in his group to play in the Spalding Park Open, which was a few years ago now. But, yeah, just a legend. And as I said, I'm not sure sports followers, and particularly cricket followers, when someone of that stature, and when it happens so suddenly, it's strange, isn't it? It's a bit like Danny Frawley last year, the similar situation. You know, you just go, wow, what? And it doesn't seem, see, it's like one of your best mates. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Just before you introduce Carly, because we're both very keen to get her on, but
Yep.
you mentioned something just in your opening line about chatting to WA real estate business owners, and there's a lot of activity in the real estate businesses, like businesses going well, but staffing is a different story. What did you mean by that? Did you mean that?
No, not real estate, but business owners. So across the board, business owners that I've had that they've contacted me for different reasons, property related. But then, of course, you know me, I like a chat, and I always intrigued about what other people are experiencing. And I had and again, it's something we'll brush past Carly as well. But I had a business owner yesterday who's involved in hospitality and was totally frustrated with the ability to get staff. In fact, getting staff from Victoria now who are wanting to work, and she's just waiting for them to go through their quarantine process and they're up and running. So there's going to be a few West Australians, in my opinion, when the job seeker suddenly stops, are going to have, like as her comment was, her intention is to ask the question, so you want a job now because what have you been doing the last 6 months? And that's a fair question, I think, because you want people to work for you that want to work. And I think there's a few people around here in WA that need a good shake-up, because I think it's a disgrace what's going on. And that's a personal opinion. It might even be my rant, in fact, that I feel that there are. An example is the people that are doing market gardeners. The people, we talk about farmers. Well, they're business owners. And I got a farmer who's busting the boiler to get a shearer, get shearers in. You know, the sheep are fly blown because you can't get the shear in. They got to need their wool off. It's getting to the warmer months and it's fly time. And so for those that aren't educated, that's an important part of the health of the sheep, is having them sheared so that they, not only for their wool, but also for their health and their well-being. So there's those things there. Now that's not shearers not wanting to work. That's because of the restrictions and the inability to get people from, mainly a lot of the shearers come from New Zealand these days. So that has an impact on the farming and the shearing community. But fruit picking, my God, mate, you know, that's just unheard of. And people working in bars and apparently there's businesses up in Shark Bay, for example, got signs, staff wanted. Can't get cannot get people to knock on the door and say, yeah, I want a job. I also see that as a life experience. I mean, when we were at uni and things like that, that's a life experience, an opportunity to do, even you listen to famous actors, what did you do before you actually started making headway with your employment? Oh, I worked in a restaurant, or I worked in a bar. A uni student worked in a bar, worked in a restaurant. Come on, people. I just do not understand this. And there's a bakery in Kalbarri that is shut down because they're exhausted because they can't get staff.
Really? The Kalbarri bakery?
True story. And I believe that might be similar situation in Mininu, where they just can't get staff. So there's a couple of examples that have been passed on to me, and I'm sure there's other stories similar. It is just crazy.
TV, that's one hell of a rant, mate. I'm not used to seeing you, so passionately about something, and so passionately about something that really isn't directly real estate related. That's a tragedy. To the Mininu Bakery, I know really well, and I can't believe that place. That's almost like a tenth, maybe even a quarter of the business that would happen in Mininu anyway, just when you go down the main street. But Kalbarri, oh my God, I'm in Kalbarri next week with my wife and my kids.
Go and get your bread before you go.
I can't believe it. How can you go to Kalbarri and not go to the bakery? So, I mean, I know those people always work so hard, though, like most bakeries do. But
they get up earlier than you, mate. They get up earlier than you.
That is a absolute tragedy. So, mate, we better get Carly on, hey?
Well, I think so. So today we've got Carly Browne. Carly is from Ray White Geraldton. She's a property manager there, and I'll just give you a little bit of intro. So Karls has been I like to think that my wife and I are friends of Karls, but I thought we've been trying to get hold of someone with regard to property, and I've been meaning to ask her so often, and then I've last minute yesterday went, I haven't. So Karls, she is a Don supporter. She is an Essendon supporter. So she and her hubby. So we can't help that. But so she's got a quiet time. They were looking at cricket replays last night because there was no footy on and the Dons weren't playing. She used to work for a very well-known refrigeration and air conditioning firm in the Hallinan family business there, Hallinan Refrigeration. She worked at Financial and has been with Ray White for the best part of 6 years. So she's got a bit of background, a bit of experience in that field. Loves her camping, or glamping as she calls it, and travel when the borders are open. So she's enjoys life. Karls, welcome.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Carly.
Good morning. How are you both?
Isn't it nice to have someone you can actually enjoy looking at rather than a couple of little grey-haired men?
Thank you.
Hey, Karls, great to have you on board, and it's something that we, as I said to you the other day, we love doing it. It's a really casual sort of chat. As far as we're concerned, there may not be anybody really listening to us, but we hope there is. But it's an opportunity for people to ask questions to Carly, and all three of us for that matter. But Karls, how are you going with regard to the world of property, and particularly rental? What's your feel of it all at the moment?
It has certainly shifted to more of a landlord's market rather than a tenants market, which has been the last few years in the Midwest region. So there's a bit of a shortage of stock, especially stock in some of the most requested suburbs. That's pretty difficult to come by. And it's typical of real estate, but it's busy, busy, busy. Yep. And
Karls, with regard to, I know, look at this, Karls. We've got one of your old mates. Johnny Harvey says, morning, Carly.
Oh, hi, Harves. We miss you.
So there is someone watching, Karls. John Harvey is an ex-Ray White man who's retired and living in Mandurah. He's moved down to Mandurah. So morning, Harves. I hope you got some questions. Karls, getting back to you, so you make mention about, I was talking, Oscar normally provides some stats, which he hasn't done today because we wanted to get you on board. But last week, with the rentals in Geraldton as a whole was less than 80, which is just unheard of.
Yeah, and we only have 8, and a total of 8 vacant at the moment. That's it.
That's unheard of. I mean, that's just mind-boggling. And there's some areas that I've seen in Perth, for example, where they've got nothing. There's nothing available.
Yeah.
Like there's some suburbs that are just no rental properties available. So it's a very, very intriguing time. And the other interesting stat with regard to this is there was the stats that came out for to March 2020, for the 12 months March 2020. The population growth in WA has increased by 1.5%. So that's nearly the old level. So we're nearly up there, and it'd be interesting to see what those levels will be come June.
Yeah. I think as well we found sort of around May when we really noticed it was people that are looking for that lifestyle change. So it probably was prompted by COVID. Lifestyle change, want to get out of the city, want to go to regional, larger centres.
Yep. And there's also suggestion that, obviously are you seeing the same as what appears to be across the board? Is that expats coming back to Geraldton? Is that FIFO workers deciding to stay in Geraldton because they can't go across the border? What's the general? Who are the people that are renting?
It's an absolute melting pot mixture.
Yep.
It's people that are from South Australia and never lived in Geraldton before. It's FIFO. It's people relocating from Perth because they can't find a rental in Perth. So it really is a big mixture.
Oh, is that right? So they can't find a rental in Perth, so they're moving to Geraldton?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I was talking to someone yesterday from Kalgoorlie, and they said they are experiencing the exact same thing as what we are.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to get someone from over that way at some point, both on a real estate and a rental situation. Yes.
I have to stick my finger up these days when we have a guest in order that I can ask a question. So, Carly, I have to ask, so with the few rentals that are around Geraldton, are we seeing any price growth in rentals, or are people offering more than the asking price? Are we in that sort of market now?
Yes, both. So we are able to advertise a property that previously may have been even $50 a week less than what we're going to advertise it for now, and it will lease quite quickly. And especially in the competition suburbs, for example, Wandina. People love Wandina Primary School, and they just want to be in that catchment zone for the school. So it can be multiple applications, multiple offers. And when we say offers, it's not just price, it's also the lease term. So people are offering 2-year leases.
Wow, 2 years. So that's a real, the upside to that, and there was an article in here about, good news for investors. That's an investor's opportunity, isn't it? That you can invest in a property, you can buy a property. We had Michael Keil on last week, and Killer is well respected and very knowledgeable when it comes to real estate in the I suppose the southeast pocket would that be the right, Oscar? And
southeast, yeah.
Yeah, and it was really enjoyable talking to Michael and listening to his perspective. And as he's saying, if you're not looking long term to buy property, then don't do it. But when you can get rental, if you're looking for an investment opportunity and you can get lock in a rental for 2 years, you would have to consider that as a pretty, you're certainly not getting any money, putting your money in the bank. So you'd have to consider that as being an opportunity, would you not?
Most definitely.
Yep. OD, your thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I want to make straight to a new question, because otherwise we're already 20 minutes into the show and it flies by. So, Carly, one of the things that we've got a problem with down here in Perth is that obviously with this emergency period that we've got and the moratorium on evictions, part of that means that for all existing tenants, we're unable to increase the rents if the tenant's an existing tenant under a fixed term or even under a periodic lease. So what we're experiencing down here in Perth is some very similar demand issues and low supply issues. And so we're now starting to see price rises. At the moment, we're 6 months out from the end of this extended emergency period because it goes through to the 28th of March. So part of the problem that the industry's got is if rents are starting to increase by $50 a week, like what you just said, that's a good 15 to 20%, sometimes even 30% increase. What's going to happen when we get to the end of March with that trend continuing and all these other people have been paying at that time well below market rents? What's going to happen to the rental market then? Have you guys, as an office, given that some thought?
We have, and there are some contingencies to move around this with how you write rent increases into your leases. So that has to be given some thought. Traditionally, you would see across the industry people probably just writing in an increased contingency of $5 to $10, max of $20 a week. With this market, you're going to have to think outside the square with that and possibly broaden that range or revisit how you write those contingencies into your leases.
Yeah, and so for those with existing leases, so if they have a fixed term lease and that then goes to if they're not going to sign a lease renewal and they don't need to, you're not allowed to evict them, which means that it's just going to stay as a periodic tenancy, and that periodic tenancy has to be at the same rent that it was previously, which means that extra $50 a week that you're talking about that the property is now worth, the existing tenant doesn't need to pay that. They can pay their lower rental, and that's going to be guaranteed at least for the next 6 months because the government said no rent increases. So this is why my rant from last week TV is so important, because the government has said no rental increases for the next 6 months for existing tenants. But we can see already that the rental market is off on a massive run because there's low supply and high demand. So never ever have we seen before the government have a policy that has restricted natural market forces. But we've right now, unless they change their mind, we've got this for the next 6 months, and there's going to be a major problem come April next year. Major problem.
Yeah, and the other thing that and I was going to sort of highlight some of the headlines that I'm going to start introducing headlines of the week. Because there's so much going on. You pick up whether it be The Age, the Herald Sun, the West Australian, realestate.com. There's so many different headlines, and I thought it'd be really perhaps we sort of highlight some of those. But one of the articles in the paper this morning, which I haven't got to read fully, but the other issue that's going to impact on rental and perhaps real estate is the increase in international arrivals. The headline is increase in international arrivals amplify rental market concerns. That's in the West this morning. That's another consideration. And as I was saying earlier on, Karls, I've spoken to business owners, both here locally and also in Perth, and in other parts of WA, they can't get staff. So that in fact, some cases, because they can't, people don't want to work here in WA because they're living the dream with their JobKeeper or job seeker, whatever it may be. They're getting people who want to work from the East Coast. So they're waiting for them to come out of quarantine. Those people are going to look for somewhere to live. So further pressure on the situation.
Yeah, I was nodding along when you were talking about Kalbarri. We have heard so many, and I hate to say negative comments or feedback about the availability of cafes and food in Kalbarri during peak travel times. And people have to realise that Kalbarri normally staffed their hospitality businesses based on backpackers, and they're not coming in. And like I said, other people might be reluctant to work. So it's a real shame that may tarnish people's view of Kalbarri through no fault of the town or the community.
Yep. And we've certainly had some very close friends of ours who own a restaurant here in town, an Italian restaurant, beautiful food, and La Italiana, I don't mind pushing the button, but just magnificent food, magnificent. And we rang up to get a pizza the other day, and they were just busy. They are flat out, and they gave us the advice that we'd be about an hour's wait. But sadly, because they're friends of ours, we're aware of the situation where they've had staff being abused because the place is chaotic, and people need to respect that. And so, staff having to put up with that sort of rubbish, perhaps sometimes is probably a good reason why I say, hang on, I don't need this rubbish. But they're working for you. They're there doing their darndest to ensure that you're enjoying your experience. And not only is it Kalbarri, but I understand right up the coast, Shark Bay, they are screaming for staff up there as well. So it's across the board. But, of course, those staff need somewhere to live. If those people come from Perth to decide to get a job in Geraldton, or there's an employment opportunity in Kalbarri or Shark Bay, where are they going to live? That's the hard part.
Yep. So, Carly, can I ask you? So, we're obviously in the middle of this COVID period as well. So, right now, the landlords, you said it's a landlord's market, and I totally concur with that. So, right now, we've got a landlord's market, but we've had now 6 months of COVID, and we're now going to have 6 months of COVID conditions. Tell me about, have you got any landlords that are sitting there with tenants that are behind in their rent? They're not allowed to be evicted. They can't be evicted for the next 6 months. and then the owner can't get that extra $50 a week from a new tenant because they're not allowed. Have you got any situations where you've got some angry landlords because their hands are tied and you're caught in the middle?
And this is going to sound like it's not the truth, but no. No. We have weathered this COVID period really well. So we don't have cases like that. So we are very lucky.
That is really good news. That is good news. Are you aware of the situation at all in Geraldton? Are you aware of circumstances maybe with others? I mean, you don't have to name names, but are you aware that it is an issue here in Geraldton at all?
No, not really. It's,
okay.
It shouldn't be spoken about anyhow, probably.
No, I don't mean to name names, but just, I mean, obviously, certainly we're aware of it. We are, not necessarily Geraldton, but we are aware that that is an experience. But that's really interesting that that as far as your office is concerned and your landlords are not going through that drama. So that's a positive.
That's really good because often, in the regions where employment and therefore economic conditions, often when we go through this sort of period that we have, the regions can cop a bit of a hiding for whatever reasons, and even like the Kalbarri stuff that you're talking about at the moment, and therefore that impacts on employment, and therefore that impacts on people's abilities to pay rent. So it's great that you guys don't have that as a theme through Geraldton, but certainly in Perth, and not all landlords, not all areas, but there definitely is examples, and I know of quite a few just in the business that I work with at the moment. There's quite a few of that exact situation where tenants have got this safety blanket around them. Yes, they are COVID affected, so it's genuine reasons. They're behind in their rent. They can't be evicted. The rental market on the move, and a landlord who has to continue paying the mortgage on the property and the rates and the insurance are sitting there not being able to capitalise. So we definitely have got some angry landlords. And so that, from my point of view, means that we have to coach our property management staff and our property managers as to how they can deal with a really, really difficult situation, because our landlords are our clients, and it's a tough situation. Also one that we've never, ever had to experience before as a property management industry.
Absolutely. It's uncharted territory, but the two cases that we did have that required assistance were able to be resolved by seeking assistance from DEMIRS for the residential rent relief grant. So I think people definitely need to be on top of what assistance is available out there.
Yeah. The other thing that I was going to ask with regard to that, Karls, what are some of the experiences that you have had that you sort of like in this current market as far as tenants are concerned? And obviously, again, we don't ask to name names, but some of the experiences you've had with regard to not so much the tenants that have got a property, but better still, let's rephrase that. What are some of the tips that you sort of would recommend as far as people are when they're looking to rent a property? What are some of the things that you would recommend that that would help their cause? Maybe it's a case of doing their homework and providing all the right references, etc. What's your thoughts on that?
110%. We quite often see out there frustration from prospective tenants because they feel, they don't have much to offer. There's not much on the vacancy list. We haven't heard anything back. So I thought, let's go through some top tips to avoid those situations. So as the market is getting more and more competitive, it's important that tenants have all their ducks in a row, so to speak. So make sure all the documentation's there. Make sure you have your ID, photo identification, so we can, identify who you are. Make sure you provide all the references that are required as per the tenancy application form. And a big one, let your references know that we will be getting in touch with them, because what can delay an application is us trying to get hold of the references and keep chasing them for a callback. So if your application we're unable to get hold of the contacts, that will push your application to the back of the queue, basically. So really be prepared with that. Submit the application promptly, even have it ready to go to the viewing, and have it ready to submit to the leasing officer who's conducting the viewing. And another point I thought possibly too, because it can become so electronic, maybe put some time into putting together a letter describing your family and what you do and your hobbies and interests, and possibly a picture of you and your family, just so it it kind of becomes then like a rental resume as such.
Yep. Great idea. I like that idea.
Touch on it as well.
Yep, like that idea, like that big time. OD, have you got any thoughts? You've got a background in property. What do you think of Karl's thoughts?
I think they're great. I'm nodding the whole time because I'm listening to I'm listening to what's required. Then I'm listening to the things that Carly is saying that is not really required, but are a good idea to do these days. Just to make your application like a job application as well. What can you do to make your application stand out when there's going to be lots of other applications coming in? So I really do like that thinking. One of the other things I was going to ask you, Carly, is the current rental market and this emergency period, is it causing any grief for the sales team in your office? Because I'm in touch with our sales team in our office, and it's making life a bit hard because they can't sell a lot of properties that have got tenants in them, they can't sell those to owner occupiers because there's no security in when those properties are going to become vacant. So have you got any examples of things causing problems with your sales guys?
That's exactly what you just raised, Oscar, is navigating around trying to sell a property that has a tenant in it.
Yeah.
It's as a rental terms, it's exactly that challenge that's how do we navigate what we can and can't do at the moment due to the COVID Relief Act.
Yeah. So we've had a situation, in fact, my general manager mentioned to me he's got 4 deals at the moment amongst his sales team that are hinging on what's going to happen with the tenant. And it's a real big grey area. Not only that, we've had from the Department of, from DMIRS, Department of Mines, Industry and Regulation Safety, or DMIRS, whatever it stands for, they've actually given us a little bit of conflicting advice as to when a property is sold, and if there is a periodic tenancy there, can you actually, once there's an accepted offer on the property, can you actually give notice to that tenant or not? So,
yes,
yeah.
110%. So they have to be in a periodic tenancy. Then you can enter into a contract for sale. It must be written into the contract of sale that the buyer requires vacant possession as well. And then the notice can be issued to the tenant for them to vacate the premises due to vacant possession required.
So, and those things, sorry to interrupt you, but just with regard to that on a contract, they are things that are frustrating for our business as settlement agents, Champion Bay, when we suddenly find, hang on, there's no reference to the fact that this place is tenanted and there's a tenant in there and the place has been sold. So, yeah, good point. Sorry, OD.
No, well, then the next thing is, so, yes, when the property is sold, then you're able to issue that 30-day notice to the tenant if it's a periodic tenancy. At what point do you issue that notice to the tenant, though?
Trying to think back to we've only had one instance of this, and I think it was issued when the offer went unconditional.
Yeah, so that's the logic, and that's a good way of doing it. But the way that the legislation's written at the moment, so far as the property's been sold, I think it says when there's a contract of sale in place. So as you know, you can have a contract of sale in place, but it might not be an unconditional contract. So if you give the tenant notice to vacate because there's a contract of sale, let's just say the tenant starts packing up and decides to move out, but then the contract doesn't become unconditional and finance falls over, or there's a bad building report or something like that, and the tenant's packed up and off they've gone. So then it's not clear enough yet. And as I said, there's 4 deals in our office at the moment that are trying to hang in the balance. Meanwhile, the settlement agents also are trying to make heads or tails of, does the tenant go? Does the tenant stay? What are the rights of the buyer?
Yep. Karls, the other question that I've got from someone you probably know, are there any new properties being built in Geraldton for tenants? So is there building happening where, are you aware of anything like that nature?
Not that we're aware of. We have seen land being snapped up, and this is purely personal opinion and probably just property management chit chat when we're eating lunch. But we are fearful that
you have time for lunch.
Yeah. We're fearful that they will all then hit the market at the same time and flood the market, and they'll sit there because we need them now. We have had quite a few people from Perth want only new properties. I don't want to move into a house that is more than 2 years old. And, of course, they're not familiar with Geraldton, and that just hasn't been the case in the last couple of years. There hasn't been just build the rental properties. So we've had to sort of explain that to them and say, you're going to have to narrow your criteria down a little bit and probably, rethink that because they just don't exist.
Yeah, that's right. And we know, and even developers, as far as that's concerned, I mean, the cost to develop, the cost to build, and then, of course, the market, not just in Geraldton, but WA as a whole, was on slowdown. The population, of course, compared to Perth is different. So there's that's an interesting point. I didn't realise that you'd be getting that sort of demand for new property. So that's an interesting point. Yeah. The other thing that I've just had, Dean Stonehouse. Dino's a friend of mine and a regular on our show. He's been a guest, but he's just made comment. He's amazed the number of properties that are advertised for rent. We're not talking about Geraldton, by the way. This is across the board, but properties that are advertised for rent that use outdated photos and then when inspected don't match the quality perceived by the advert. That's an interesting point with regard to that. I find that sort of I would have thought at the moment that would be quite the opposite, but that was just a comment made. So,
that's false advertising, that's misrepresentation, and the landlord or the agency needs to be very, very careful.
Yep. So there's a tip for landlords and those in the market. Yeah. So you need to be assured that what you're promoting and what you're advertising is what it is. So the other thing he's made mention is he agrees with you, Karls. When you chat to clients, and he looks after the finance side of things, and when he's talking to people that are looking to rent, he strongly suggests they present their rental application like they're applying for a job. So he's all over what you're recommending. So you've got someone on your side, Karls, besides TV and OD.
Karl. So I thought you raised a really interesting point that I hadn't heard of, and TV mentioned it as well, and that being people that are not able to find rental properties elsewhere or in Perth are then looking at alternative locations, and that being Geraldton. So therefore, that's got an impact on the employment in Geraldton, and then obviously that's going to have to filter through the economy as well. So are there lots of job opportunities in Geraldton then?
Yeah, so I keep a watch of this because we do need to know, being in this industry, what's happening with employment. So in this week alone, it's been an average of on Seek, this is coming from Seek, 15 to 20 jobs posted per day.
Per day?
That's huge for Euro, isn't it? That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is amazing. But again, this is what highlights. This is exactly what is highlighting the situation as far as employment. Like businesses can't get staff. You know, it's. I mean, I've got market gardeners, for example, who can't get people to pick. And there was a really interesting article today about, you know, people now on school holidays and that sort of caper. Here's an opportunity to go and strawberry picking or cherry picking or picking broccoli or whatever the case be. It's not only just a job, but it's a life experience and generates some income. But because some of those jobs are seasonal. But as I was saying earlier, Karls, I spoke with a business owner yesterday, and she's now got people in quarantine from Victoria because she's in hospitality and she simply cannot get people to work. She's obviously, she's one of these people similar to ourselves where we've got a really good team, but she needs more and she needs to keep up, and she's got 2 hospitality businesses to operate, and those staff cannot work non-stop. Exhaustion eventually comes in, as we're talking about before with Kalbarri Bakery. So that's interesting. 15 to 20 a day, that's huge for Geraldton.
Yeah. So, it's been interesting to watch and read them as they come through, and it's been quite diverse with regards to what industry it is. It may be a government job, it may be a health employment job, it might be a mining job. So there, and some admin as well has been on there. So it is a mixture.
Yeah. Karls, are you aware? Sorry, mate, go on.
Just a quick one, Karls. This is a personal interest question because I'm in Kalbarri, not this coming week, but the following week with my wife and 2 little girls. This is, without question, the busiest school holiday period for Kalbarri. Is it possible that the bakery owners were having a few days off just before this really, really busy 2 weeks? I'm hoping that that's the case and that the Kalbarri bakery hasn't actually shut for good.
No, I don't. From my understanding, I don't think it's shut down. I think they have just exhausted and having a breather. And I think you may be right. I don't know that. I haven't spoken to them directly. That's come from someone that I know within Kalbarri. So okay. I don't know, but I believe it was just they were just exhausted. They've had a breather. I don't believe they've shut down as such. Okay. But you may be right, mate. That may be exactly the reason why. And I was talking to some other people earlier on in the week as well, like Broome and all that. They're booked out till February. That's not normally the case. I mean, there's nowhere else to travel, of course. So that continuity and requirement of staff is going to be going on up and down the WA coast. And don't forget, now the weather's getting warmer. You would suggest the southwest area and all that will start to be a little bit busier. But Broome and places like that are busy and booked out, from my understanding, until at least February of next year.
Southwest is already flat out, TV. They're not doing it tough down there, mate. They're flat out.
Oh, no, yes, they are. But the warm weather, and holiday period, etc., you would expect there's going to be more people out and about, isn't there?
Yeah.
So interesting. The couple of the headlines that I will sort of make mention before we come to we go through a few other things, but. This week there was good news for investors, record low Perth rental vacancy rates, which we've sort of highlighted ourselves. Sometimes we're ahead of our time, Karls. There's been articles the week after we've already discussed them on our show, so we're all over it here on Property Avenue WA.
They watched our show. Hey, TV, before you, I just saw a question from another viewer come up on the feed, and the question is for Carly, and the question is Ross Brown too old for footy, and should he just give it away?
He hasn't played football for a very long time, so yes.
Viewer that said that.
No, I know that viewer. Yeah. While you're talking about Brownie, I was going to ask about that football. Is that where he kicked his 100th goal, that footy, or is that something of real meaning?
No, that's an Essendon memorabilia football. I think from 2000. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I've actually got James Hurd's football boot, all framed and whatever, in my office. You'll have to show you that one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Ross, just keep it under lock and key.
There you go. Yeah. So getting back. Sorry, Karls, what was that?
Oh, Ross hasn't played football in about 9 years.
That long?
Yeah, he requires another knee reconstruction. So
maybe he should take it up again. Then, like, he shouldn't, like, whoever that viewer
sorry,
was.
Oscar.
Whoever that viewer was that said he should give it away, maybe he should take it back up again.
Hey, talking about taking it back up, I played hockey last week, admittedly for not very long, but I wasn't. There was a few family members that weren't fussed considering what I've just recovered from.
Did you fall over? I heard you fell over quite hard, mate.
With about a minute to go, I tripped over someone's stick and I fell super hard. I've got a very bung thumb. I don't shake your head, Karls. I've got a lot of skin off my knee. And, yes, I was a little bit sore for a few days, but I'm okay.
Actually, mate, that same viewer that wrote that thing about Ross Brown has just jumped on and said, is Tony Viner too old for hockey and should the old bastard just give it away?
No.
that last comment from Jude?
Oh, no, she wasn't happy. She came out of the dugout most concerned because I think she thought she was going to be a nurse again. In fact, she just sent a message through. Judy Viner made a comment, dumb. Nothing more than that, just dumb. And what about the squash match? How did the squash go last week, Oscar?
Good, mate. I survived 2 games. I should have played a bit more. But it went, really, really good. Bit of soreness the next couple of days. So it was good. And should be back on track this morning, as soon as this show finishes.
Quickly, the headlines. So increase in international arrivals amplify rental market concerns. Achieving the home ownership dream. A new report has found that most Australians still aspire to get the great Australian dream of owning their own home. Tips for making your rental application stand out. See, we're already ahead of this, Carl. See what I mean? We're ahead. Calls for a helping hand, and that's to do with people as far as the economic health and the confidence, which we've already discussed. Banks surge on lending plan. So you see where our treasurer, our federal treasurer, is sort of encouraging the lenders get out there and just lend, and even know what was addressed with the Royal Commission. There's a bit of hoo-ha going on about that, which again will be interesting to see what impact that has with the real estate market. So lenders fight over rates, and that's another issue that's going on at the moment with regard to real estate. And see Commonwealth Bank and ING are being quite competitive with their interest rates, and I'm sure the others will entertain that. So it's interesting. Rent feud escalates. So that's to do with commercial property, which is another point. I know that's not the field you're in, Karls, but with commercial property, what's your observation? And Oscar, you might like to enter into this. Where are you seeing that? Have you seen what's going on in that field? Is that any different to the home market?
I know during COVID when that first hit and we started working remotely, the commercial team were extremely busy with all the rental commercial tenancies and queries on rent relief, etc. And navigating that, they were busy for quite some time. But I'm not really in that department and don't.
No, I know that. Yeah. I just wondered whether you still. I just wondered what your observations were. Yeah.
Man, I've got some news hot off the press on that. So I did go for my walk this morning around the Swan River with Michael Keil, and when we were at the coffee shop, I bumped into Mark Ramage, and obviously on Main Street in South Perth. And Mark, the Ramage family obviously had some commercial property holdings in Geraldton. So I asked Mark, how are things going there? And he mentioned 2 things. One is accommodation, a bit like Kalbarri, a bit like Shark Bay, everything fully booked out, set breaking records. Like there's just no rooms available in Geraldton, so that's great for Geraldton. And from a commercial property, from a commercial tenant's point of view, hasn't really caused them a whole lot of grief. And in fact, if anything now, it's actually created a bit more, because Geraldton's been tough in the commercial space. But if anything, it's created a bit more inquiry now where because the town's been doing it tough for a while. It seems like the worst of that COVID stuff in WA, so far as the commercial market is concerned, has passed, and people are starting to ask questions and make inquiries again. So if anything, there's commercial opportunities through Geraldton, and that is news in from about an hour and a half ago from one of the commercial property owners in Geraldton. So you can't get more current than that.
Yeah, I see. This is what I mean. We are up with it. We are all over it, Karls. The other headline was extroverts slam lending laws. So the credit and consumer groups have slammed the federal government's decision to axe responsible lending laws, warning it will trigger worse wrongdoing than uncovered in the Banking Royal Commission. So watch this space. I think we'll have to get someone involved in finance on board, OD, maybe a banker or maybe Dino Stonehouse or a Jordan Ralph, someone of that nature.
I think Jody Bevan's been itching to get on for ages.
He's up at Karratha at the moment. He's up at Karratha. He went up to Karratha to see his daughter up there. So maybe he'd give us a perspective of what he's felt, what he's seen when he's been up there. I'll have to give him a shout. Should I fix or stay variable? So these are some regular questions that pop up from anyone with a mortgage. So should I fix my mortgage or stay with a variable option? So there's a really good article about that. So there's a few really good topics about that. The other thing is I made mention about the issue with employment, but there was a really good article about schools and universities and perhaps promoting those people when it comes to jobs like fruit picking and hospitality, et cetera, get them on board. We made mention about the home loan rules to be loosened, and there is also an article about the fears, which was your rant last week about the extension to WA eviction moratorium will cause rental crisis in real estate. And Karls, both you and OD had a rant last week, and I think the week before along those lines. So so some interesting articles that are going about, and certainly some topics that we will discuss further with weeks to come. Hey, listen, we're near an end. We try to get this done. Karls, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board, and to be the first lady, I love that.
Thank you.
We hope the Dons do well. There's a possibility, you heard. The whisper is that Big Joey Danaher might be going that way. So I don't know. We'll watch this space. We could be arguing about it later on.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see. Now, we do have an if question. We always have an if question. OD, have you got anything else to say? Oh, yes, I do. I do. Before we do the if question.
Did you see what you did? You said, OD, have you got anything else to say? Yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, I run the show. On a more serious note, you made mention earlier on, OD, about some sad losses, and we should not, under any circumstances, and Karls, you being on board, it's imperative. But Wayne Wickham, one of life's gentlemen, a lovely, lovely man, and was really sad when I got the news. Wayne was the principal of Ray White in Dongra. As I say, one of life's gentlemen, and to think that we've had two principals in the space of a few weeks leave us, and to Pete Bradley and all the crew down there at Ray White and Wayne's family, we wish them all the best. Our thoughts are out with you. Just a lovely, lovely guy, and you're both welcome to make any comment you want to say with regard to Wayne. You go, Carly.
Such a true gentleman, as was Cyril McKenzie as well. And both such prominent members of their communities, both in a community aspect and a real estate aspect, and it's just so sad for their families and close friends.
Yeah. Really good guys. I obviously knew both Cyril and Wayne, and I know that the Ray White family, there's a loss there for the Wickham family, the Dongra community, the Dongra Denison community as well. So fantastic blokes, and we're worse off for not having them around anymore. But it was great whilst we did.
And just goes, life is short, so enjoy it. I mean, here we are doing what we're doing, but we're doing this because we love doing it. When you Wayne, we've obviously referred to Cyril in the previous show, but as far as Wayne's concerned, it's only like this week And he was a character. Not only was he a gentleman, but he was a character. I mean, we had many a laugh. And I'm disappointed. I didn't realise he'd been struggling with his health for as long as he has. So, as I say, to Wayne, from all of us here, the three of us, and certainly from everybody else, we wish the family and all the staff and all the crew our best wishes. Hey, I don't think I have anything else with regard to the week is concerned, but I do have an if question, Karls. We have an if question every week. And the if question is, if you could spend your life never sleeping, what would you do with the extra hours each day?
Travel.
Oh, okay. Travel. You'd be going up and down the coast at the moment.
Yeah. Rottnest will be my overseas trip.
Yeah, well, if you can get in, that's an interesting point you make about Rottnest. You should follow that up and see where that's happening. Yeah. OD.
Should I say what I said?
You don't sleep. What are we? Hey?
Should I say what I said off air, but
No.
to you or not?
No, I don't think it's a good idea.
So then my real answer is a bit of a crowd pleaser though, but I just ask my wife, if I'm not going to be sleeping, I just ask my wife and say, hey babe, what should we do? I don't care what I'm doing, as long as I'm hanging out with her, I'm in good territory. So I don't really care, so long as I'm hanging out with her.
Don't you love it, Karls? There's a man. There's true love.
Okay. What I said before the show was I'd grab TV and
Stop it. We're trying to go on. We're trying to work our way towards getting this going. Podcasting. You're a disgrace. I'll have to reassess my co-host, I think. I listen. Thanks a million. It's been fabulous to have you on, Karls, and we'll definitely get you on again to get an update of what's going on and what your experience. Really enjoyed the fact that you gave us some great tips for those that are out there looking to rent and getting a perspective of what's going on with Geraldton. And wish you well. And I don't envy your job. I really don't. I think you, to do it with a smile, it's been. I think you're a credit. So thanks a million. So anybody looking in Geraldton and you're wanting to know who to talk to, this is our lady, Carly Browne at Ray White Geraldton, and she'll give you the right direction. OD, thanks a million, mate. Anything else to finish off on?
No, mate. I wish everyone a good week, a good, safe, healthy week. Great long weekend here in WA. So do things you love.
Yeah, and the other thing that I can say is if you are on the road and there's plenty of people, please travel safe. Not only is it a long weekend, but there's lots and lots of people travelling. All those that are on school holidays have a great time. And we enjoy what we're doing. So if you've got any questions, every week, Saturday, 8 o'clock, you don't have to watch us live. But if you've got any questions, please send them through. Ask the questions. That's what we're here for. We're not selling anything. We're here to help you. We've got, between us and our guests, we've got plenty of knowledge and experience. And we're not suggesting we know it all. But if what we don't know, we'll go and discover the answers. Thanks again. Have a great week. And when I find our little ad, I will cut this off. Thanks a million, Karls.
Thank you.
Where is it? I'm going well today.
What I said off air was I'd grab TV if I didn't have to sleep.
Not off air yet. Stop it.
I'd grab Tony Viner, and
I can't find I'm having problems today. I think we'll just close off. Thanks a million. Cheers.